Hello and welcome back. This is Sherry with Heart and Soulful. I'm in the studio today for a final flip through of the altered book that I had started, and I didn't know that I was going to finish the whole thing before I did another video, but that's just how it worked out. So today I want to go through a flip through, but I'm also going to kind of point things out and maybe do little demos or tips and tricks, any kind of thing like that that I might come across as I'm doing the flip through. That's for new people. So if you're just joining me for the very first time, I am fairly new to all this journaling and junk journals and altered books and that sort of thing. I've only been doing this a year. I specifically started my channel just to be able to share these types of projects with my Facebook followers. So that's not my background at all. I do this as a hobby. It's not a job, but it's just something that I enjoy. When I'm learning something new, I like sharing it with other people. So that's my intention. If I inspire you, wonderful. Give me a thumbs up. And if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. I'll try to, answer them as best I can. I'm not a professional, like I said. I just kind of do this for fun. So if you see things because you're more experienced or whatever, feel free to fast forward through them. But I want to point some things out for the new people. I know when I was first new at this, you don't know all the tools. You don't know what the products are. You don't know where to buy them. You don't know the lingo, all that kind of stuff. So I'm trying to help those people who are just new to this and want to get started making their own journals. So this one, it was an altered book. I went in the first part, I went through how I prepared the book, tearing out pages and how to do all of that. I didn't have the heart folded, so I will go over that also today. I did check her website for the pattern, and she does have it still up, so that link will be good down in the description. I'll put a link in the description to the first video in case you'd like to go back and watch that one first. I listed all of the paper packs that I used in this one in the first video. I have added 2 more, so I will list them in addition in this one. So anyway, so that's it. I had already put a closure on this book, not knowing how big it was going to be, but it still closes. I like to leave them sitting on the shelf this way so I see them anyway. So it's kind of still works with the ribbon. Or I can just untie it and leave it open. And then it really just kind of makes you want to pick it up and look through it. So as I was working on this one, someone that I know that has purchased a journal from me before is interested in this one, so it may have a home already. I had her in mind then as I kind of finished the rest of the journal, knowing that she journals in it every day kind of thing. So I wanted to leave plenty of room for her to write. I may also add some little sticker embellishments and things that I haven't made yet. So if I do that, I will do another little, a little video showing what I come up with and making that available in my Etsy shop as well. So here we go. So I had shown this already. I had just collaged on the front and the back inside covers. So I toned that down. It was a little bright and kind of a background, but not finished. So I just kind of softened that with my Tattered Rose Distress Oxide, and then just put a book plate on it. And then I decided, because I didn't have a plan when I first started this journal and I had already painted the cover, I decided to use this as my palette and just start going through all of my papers that I had. I wanted to use my hand-painted book page papers just to use some up. Scraps that I had, these were all just from scraps. And then the paper packs that I've listed. And then just kind of have fun and kind of just, play. So that's what I've done. This was a little Tim Holtz card that I found. I didn't have a theme, so then I decided, because it's a journal that's going to actually be written in, I would make this book just all about writing and kind of keep it simple so that she can just journal in it, add what she wants and that sort of thing. So I didn't do a whole lot of embellishment, but I wanted to make sure each pocket had plenty of places to journal. So I had put this card in before because I knew that I liked these papers together. I kind of started out with this, 2 hand-painted papers, some scraps, and then these were 2 Tim Holtz cards. And that kind of was my jumping off point for the whole book. So I've taken this scrap that I had and just made a card with it. I like to use a little slot punch. When they're a wider card like this, instead of using a round hole, I like this little slot one. I'll try to find where I purchased this. It was probably on Amazon. So I'll try to go back and find it and put the link for you if you're new and did not know about these. It's kind of nice because your wider ribbon just fits without being all bunched up. So I kind of like that. And then one thing that I did, and I'm going to show you how I did this, so I'll take a minute, is embossing. If you've never done any embossing, it's really easy. It's just a nice way to add a little shimmer. I wanted this, you know, I want things to kind of stay as flat as possible in the journal just because it's going to get bulked up. So without, you know, putting a lot of dimension on things, that's just a nice way to turn the background paper without getting really busy, just to give it something a little special so it's not just like a flat piece of paper card kind of thing. So to do this, I'm going to find something that I can do it on. Let's see. I'll do it on this butterfly. So I'm going to set this aside for a second and I'll show that real quick. So I'm just going to do this little butterfly. In the journal, you'll see that was kind of my starting off point with using the embossing. This is on a really thin piece of paper, so it's kind of nice because I'll be able to show you what it will do versus on something thicker. So to do the embossing on something just like that, I just want to make this, you know, look a little more dimensional than just a picture on a piece of paper. So I'm using this, it's from Ranger, I'll put a link, Emboss It pen, and it's just clear. So they may come in colors. I may have a black one, in fact, I'm not sure, but this lid's on here really good. It's just a way to kind of get, you can see that little sheen. It's just a place for the embossing powder to stick. So what I did, you can color in this whole thing, but I tended to, on my butterflies, just go around like the outside, the dark parts, just to give it a little bit of dimension. You could use this and write words, you know, and emboss words, or that sort of thing, but I just kind of thought this was a nice little fun way. You can use, you know, like glitter pens or, you know, glitter glue kind of things also, but that's going to give it a little bit more dimension. So this keeps it really flat, but it gives you that little detail. So you can't really see that I've done anything there. It just kind of has, you see the little shine? That's where I'm going to put my embossing powder. So I'm just going to use a scrap piece of paper. I'm using from Recollections this clear transparent embossing powder just because I don't want a color, or I mean, you could, if you wanted that to look metallic or something, you could use a color, but I'm just using clear. I just want it to be shiny. So I'm going to leave that there for a second. So you just pour it over the whole thing and then tap, 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 you know, go like that to get any extra off. Now it's hard to see, but I can kind of feel with my finger if you feel some grains. Then you can take like a dry paintbrush, I don't have one right here, or a Q-tip or something, and just kind of make sure you get all that off, because if you heat that on your paper, it's gonna emboss that also. So just kind of feel around, make sure you don't have anywhere you don't want it. And then before you start, get rid of this because you don't want this blowing everywhere. So I just always use it on a piece of paper, and then you just dump it back in your container. Make sure you put the lid on because you're going to get your heat gun out and you don't want that blowing everywhere. So I like to use a little pokey tool or something to hold it. It's going to be hot. And then I'm just going to take my embossing heat gun. I use this for drying things and for my embossing. I believe this one, it's got so much paint on it that I can't see. I think it was a Martha Stewart one. Anyway, you're going to take that, turn it on, and really quickly, I'll hold it up closer so maybe you can see it happening. You see it immediately. Now it's getting hot, so I'm going to use my pokey tool. And just like that, it's embossed. And that I just liked that because it gave me just a little layer of detail. I can already touch it, you know, but it keeps it flat. So that's really I'm not a card maker, at least not yet too much. But I had bought this quite a while ago and just really had forgotten about it. So I'm glad I pulled it out, and I've used this a lot in this journal. So that was one little tip that you can do. Let's see, where was I here? So I've done that. And on this one, I just went and used that pen and didn't do everything. I just, you know, picked out some of my swirly parts. Okay, for the label here, I had shown this in the last one. This is Sizzix, Tim Holtz labels. I'll put the link below for that. And this is a great one. If you have a die cutting machine of any kind that will take thinlits, this is great because it has all these different parts. Some people have, you know, tag punches or something like that you can use, but this one's great. It has a lot of different sizes, little stamps, different things. So I've used this quite a bit too. So I use a Vagabond too. I figured if I was going to invest in a machine, I might as well get a power operated one instead of having to hand crank it. So this is 2 sizes of the same pattern. This one's on book page. This one I did on a little scrap of just, you know, thin scrapbook paper. And then this is from the Country Road pack that I showed in the last one. The link will be below. And then just some book page, and then just a scrap of book page. And this little stamp is another thing that I've used throughout this book. I love, love, love this stamp. So this stamp set, I haven't had it for very long. One of the things, because I'm new at this, you know, and you just start kind of collecting your supplies, I didn't have a lot of sentiments, like pre-printed things, or sorry about the glare, pre-printed sentiments. You know, I can do them on my printer every time, but I found that I need to do some ahead of time so that I have them ready to go. But I hadn't done that, and I hated having to go to my printer every time I needed to print out a quote or something. So this was great. Stampers Anonymous, tiny text from Tim Holtz again. I'll put the link for that. But it's all the perfect little sentiments, and I've used a lot of these throughout this journal, and it's just a quick and easy thing to do. So I'm using throughout this journal the ground espresso archival ink, again, Distress from Ranger, for the stamping, so that it doesn't, if I use any water or introduce anything else, it's not going to run. So that's what I did on this, was on a piece of scrap top of a book page, and just tore it out and then stuck everything down. So that's my card. I did do a little spritz here just on one side, again, because I'm just trying to add some detail without thickness. And for that, I used Distressed Mica Spray in Tarnished Brass. This is the color I used throughout the book, except for, I showed this in the last video, when I spritzed this paper behind the book page. This is actually the pocket from the actual book, and I colored it with the Tattered Rose and Vintage Photo. And I think on this edge, I went ahead and also used ground espresso, just to make it a little darker, because this paper was darker. And the mica spray that I used on this was the Antique Bronze, so it has that little more orangey color. So those are the 2 mica sprays that I'm using throughout. And then I've just put a piece of coffee stained paper, and I did put another one of the sentiments. Life doesn't have to be perfect to be wonderful on this one. I want to have kind of sprinkled throughout this book little sayings like that too. You know, it's all about writing. So I haven't done too much to this, just rounded the corners and did my Vintage Photo just for some distressing. The other thing I did do is some of Tim Holtz cards like this are really shiny and slick. So I didn't know what it would be like to write on. So I roughed it up a little bit with just a nail buffer, just to kind of have things stick to it a little bit better. I'll show you later my favorite pen for actually writing in things. That's kind of going to come towards the end. So this was, again, just some scrapbook paper from that, the thicker travel, I can't remember when it was now, the Recollections paper pad that I will have listed below. I think this came out of that. So again, just Vintage Photo around to make it look a little older, and then 2 more of the little sentiment stamps. So just some more writing paper. So I've got, you know, pockets. She can add things. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places to write already just in the first page. Inside this one, I wanted to do a card. This turned out to be a good size for my slide pockets. This is just a you know, piece of cardstock from a Tim Holtz pack. And then I added another sentiment, did my vintage photo, stitched around the edge, and put a little tab here. These tabs I've shown in old videos. I actually don't have a punch that does these. I think they exist, but when I first started, I didn't know about this. I actually just made my own fold in half kind of pattern, and I did them in a bunch of different sizes, you know, so that I could use them for different things. So I did these on my Cricut. So I have this pattern. Maybe at some point I'll get organized and I'll make that available somewhere. But I use it on my Cricut. So I've just cut those out. And that goes there. And this introduced, I put this one here because I'm doing it all about writing kind of things. And this had the alphabet, but then it also introduced the moths and butterflies. So that was kind of nice because it kind of added an embellishment that I could add to this. So I'm probably gonna, you know, put some of those types of things, like I said, in stickers or little things that she can put them where she wants. Just, I want her to be able to make this her own, you know? So I'm trying to keep it simple without getting too much in here. So on this one, I had, let's see, I had mentioned it in the previous video, but the other thing that I used a lot throughout this book are a couple of stencils. And what did I do with them? I'm putting all this in the description, but these came from the same little mini background Tim Holtz thing, and I've used these throughout just to kind of, you know, fancy up some of the papers that I used so that I could carry that same kind of pattern throughout the book, just to kind of make it cohesive. Every spread is kind of its own little piece of art, but I wanted them to pull the book together by doing something cohesive with color palette and then little details like this. So again, this is just another card from a paper pack. I added the sentiment from the stamp, easy peasy, you know, just round the corners, and it's another place to write. Vintage photo around everything as usual. And then this was a cut-off piece, I think, from one of the other cards. I think it's going to be from this one. It went on one side. These were little, I'll show this in a second. These were little 6x6. That's actually the other paper pack, one of the other paper packs I used. This is from 49 Market, Natural Mini Collection. It's really good. I had bought a couple of packs of this because I knew I'd use it a lot. I really like it for journaling cards because they're light backgrounds. They're not too busy. So they're already, you know, kind of decorated. You can add a lot to this if you want. You could, you know, make little mini collages and add lots of details. But I was in a mood to keep things really simple. It also has this page that has little things that you can, things you can cut out. These are not already, you know, laser cut for you, but you have to fussy cut them. Or even just, you know, little sections of them for little pockets and things. So this is actually the one I cut it here so that I had a bookmark size and a nice journal card size. But I just really like these because you can still write on them. They're not so busy, but they make nice journal cards with some pattern. So that one ended up just being a little bookmark. All I did for this one, to doll it up a little bit, was put the sentiment at the bottom. I could have, but I did not emboss this butterfly, but I did emboss these dark parts, the edges of the flowers, if you can see. So I wanted to add, you know, that little bit of embossing. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but there's also a little shimmer. One other thing that I love using is this Imagine Sheer Shimmer Craft Spray. You get it at Michael's. My store doesn't always have it in stock, so I just order it online. I'll put a link to that also. But I love that spray. It's really nice because it gives you that little sparkle without like having big glitter on your thing. I'm not a huge sparkly person, so I like it to be kind of subtle. And then on the back, just again, you know, your vintage photo, and then just some little organza ribbon for that. This was another little piece that was cut off of another one of those 6x6 squares. And I just added the little stamp, did my corners. Do my corners if you're new, I had tried several different corner punches, and I really like this one because it has 3 sizes. It's We Are Memory Keepers. I'll put a link. And to use this, it's kind of sticking now. I don't know why, but I've used it a lot, let me tell you. But I always look at it. I don't do it this way because I want to see that I have my paper in the corner. So I will just put it in, and then I see that I had my corner all the way into the corner. And then I just dump that each one in case a little piece gets stuck. It might prevent you from getting your paper in the corner again. So I always use it upside down like this. So, but I love it. I don't have any complaints about it. It's worked for a year so far. So this was just a little cutoff. Again, do the corners, your vintage photo, and it's another little place to write. I thought about making it, you know, a hidden paper clip kind of thing, but I just kind of, you know, it's just a cute little thing. I ended up clipping in here, and I kind of just like it there like that. And then this pocket, again, one of those 6x6 pieces from 49 Market. That one I think is the one that had the butterflies here. I cut them off, put another little sentiment. Here's a tip too. If you're not really good at stamping, like I'm not good at stamping, I ink this. I put it on my little, I'll show you once. If you're brand new and don't know how to stamp, you get these little stamping blocks. They come like this. You can either do it with your hand and not use a block, but I find a block, it makes your pressure more even. So there's a little grid on these, if you can see that, and you just put that there on the line, and then you can see it from the other side. And then I ink it like that, just dab a little ink on it. Now, what'll happen sometimes is if you get ink on these corners, you want to use a baby wipe or your finger and clean that off, because what will happen is when you go to stamp it, if you start rocking it like this, you get the little ink from the corner. Now, I don't really care about this because I'm not trying to be perfect. So, you know, if you don't like that and you were, say you were making a card, this is a journal card. If you're making a birthday card or something like that and that happens, you've ruined your card, but you haven't. So how you fix that is stamp it on something other than your actual card. So I wanted these on my actual card. If that bothered me and I wanted it to be more perfect, it's okay. I would just go stamp it now on another piece of scrap paper or a piece of anything, a coordinating paper, and then glue that down. And now you still have it, but you've covered up your mistake. So that's just a little tip. This was a butterfly, that one of the ones you punch out of the larger pack. So 49 Market had that little 6x6 pack, but they also had this 12x12 pack. And in both the small one and this larger one, the paper is really thick. It's thicker than, you know, to me, just normal cardstock. And I really like that. It makes a great weight for a card. You know, it's very sturdy. This one came with some laser cut pieces that you actually just punched out. You didn't even have to fussy cut them. So that was really nice. And that was one of the little butterflies. And I just embossed it and glued it on. So I embossed the whole thing of that one. And I don't know if you could see the little shimmer. Actually, I didn't do the whole thing. I just did the black around the edge. But before I did that, in the inside, I did that shimmer spray. So on the white, I don't know if you can see it, but it's there. There is some of that sparkle spray and then the embossing. So it was just a little detail. And then the butterflies kind of sticking out the corner. And then this was a scrap. I used, you know, a fair amount of those paper packs. This is from one of the 12x12 ones. And it was just a scrap that I cut off. But I really liked it, the color for this book. So I just folded it in half. I could have made it a little booklet with paper in there, but I've done that somewhere else in the book. So I just did it like this, and she can write in it or add little bits of paper or something if she wants. But it just says use your wings. And that's there. And then this card, this was a top load pocket. So again, this was from the 6x6 pieces. I did some different sprays, mica sprays on this. You can see the shine just to kind of grunge it up a bit. Stitched around the edge, put a little lace that I've colorized. This one it was more like a moth, so I did the whole thing with the embossing and the sparkle spray over the card. You can see kind of, I think. And then with Brave Wings She Flies. So to do colorize this, if you don't have a batch of tea stain stuff, ribbons and whatnot, I had just grabbed, I've got some ribbon here, I've already colorized it, but I just grabbed little bits of things that I might want to use, and they were bright white. So to color those, you can either use your Distress sprays, your mica sprays, spray it and just, dye it that way, and then set it with your heat gun. These, I actually used my Tattered Rose. And you can use vintage any color you want, but this is just seam binding ribbon. And I just put it on my mat, spritz it with water, use your dauber, whatever ink is left on there, or add some, and just kind of pull it through like this. You can do that. You can put this right on your mat, spritz it with water, and then just clean it up with your ribbon or lace. And that's just a quick way to get whatever you're embellishing your book with to be the colors that you have going on there. So that's just, it works with lace, ribbon, whatever. Okay, so that's that page. And then next, this, I showed this in the last video. This I had done. Really, the background papers of all of these, I had gotten through most of that front section in the first video, so I won't go over all that. I've kind of shared what the paper packs are. I think these text ones came out of that Maps Text and Ledgers, which will be listed below. This came out of the 49 Market, again, part of that other piece. And another, just a little simple sentiment. I did add a little bit of music washi tape because I'm introducing some music papers also into this. So that will go there. And then this was actually another piece. I want to say it was in that Text and Ledgers because of the size. I don't have that paper right here. Let's see, where'd that book go? I think it came out of here. And these were all very thin. Yeah, you have some of these types of cards, which were great, and they kind of triggered my brain to do something, which I'll show you here in a second. But this was just, a little card, pieces of paper. They're real thin, but you can cut them out and glue them to cardstock with the glue stick. And that's what I've done here with this one. So, I just stuck it on to a piece of cream colored cardstock, and then, around the corners and age it. So another little journal card with says Best Moments. And then this I showed, this was my little Romeo and Juliet paper back here. So it kind of triggered me to do a little fold out writing space with little heart with the music paper. Again, I did my stencil there. And then I'm trying to just kind of color coordinate each spread. So this postcard was one of the pieces of paper from that same paper pack that I just showed. So it reminded me that I actually had 10 vintage French postcards. And I thought, oh, I'm going to take the time. So I did that. I scanned them all in, front and back. 2 of mine were blank, which is perfect for journal cards. So I ended up, since I knew I needed to stick this to, and this could be the writing side, I needed to stick this to cardstock. I went ahead and I printed out some of my French postcard photos. So I've just glued them together. I think on this one, because this was a thin piece of paper and I printed this on thin paper, they're just the cardstock sandwiched in between for this one. This one, now that I have scanned in all of my postcards, I went ahead and printed the postcard part onto cream cardstock, and then I printed all of my photos onto just Hammer Mill 32-pound photo or copy paper, color copy paper, so that it's a nice quality. So that feels like just an actual postcard. So I'm going to be making these postcard digitals available when I get my, I'm trying to put together a whole kind of digital ephemera pack. So I will have those at some point on my Etsy shop. And when I do, I will have the link below on this video. So that was that page. And then this is where I had this finished except for the cards in the last video. So where is my opening? I've now tucked my, oh, here it is. These were two other things, and I showed these, but I've now kind of fixed them. I'll show you here. So these are part of what's going to be that ephemera pack. And I've just printed this one. I've done them on, also printed them on cardstock just to kind of see the difference depending on what you want to use them for. If you want to use them for buttons and things, and it is nicer to have them thicker. So you can you'll be able to print them out on whatever you want. But I just printed these on that Hammer Mill 32-pound color copy paper. And then I did them in sizes for punches, circle punches that I already had. So this one I think is 3-inch. And then I have 2-inch, 1.5 inches, and 1 inch. So that way you'll have each clock face in each size. So that's going to be part of the paper pack. So I've used them here for my closure and just used some eyelets and then kind of did them not in a row so that they can be part of my collage. And then I decided he was a traveling salesman, so I've kind of used that theme for what I've added. So I had just different copy stain papers. I did a little sentiment on tissue paper and glued it all down with this ticket washi tape for a little notepad. So that's got lots of writing space. And then for the cards, let's close him back up. This is one of my little painted papers. The stripe behind him is one of my little hand-painted book pages. And some matte paper because he's a traveling salesman. And then I had already stuck her down. I did add another little sentiment just on tissue paper. Love you to the moon and back. Because, you know, he's traveling. They're waiting at home for him. And so the little girl, I kind of sat her on what I imagined the pocket wall. And then I did a little card for her because she's waiting for Daddy. And he wants her to know that she is enough. He's coming back. And then this was just another one of those little pieces in that same ledger, maps and ledger pack that I just glued to some cardstock for another little card, daily details. And then this was a little piece in a Tim Holtz pack, and it was just a typewriter and different advertisement things. So I thought, he's got a case. There's a case in here, so that I wanted to use. And that's what made me think of him being a traveling salesman. So I just embossed where it said Voyage and then stitched around the edge, spritzed it with some, you know, of the mica spray just to give it a little bit of not just flat paper. I could collage on these, you know, and do a lot. I've seen some people do some beautiful things, but I was just really kind of in a mood to keep it simple and keep things flatter. So on the back of this one, I didn't show you on this, but when I did this butterfly on this really thin paper, it makes a ghost print because you introduced a little bit of liquid from the pen and then you heated it. So it makes this little ghost print. For butterflies, it's kind of neat to see it on the back side, but other things, it might just kind of look like a mistake. So for this one, I didn't really want to see that line back there. So I just used some ticket washi tape again and one of my clock faces and just stuck it on the back because the back was already this ticking stripe. So it's still writable, but it kind of just dolled it up a little bit. And then I, you know, did some embossing on my clock face just so it looked like a added, you know, dimension. And then in that tiny center, my clock faces have, you know, the little hole, which I don't like. So it's white behind it. And I may, what I might do is before I make this available, not have it be on white paper. Maybe I'll put it on something darker or a little more interesting so that if you don't want to punch that center hole out, you can leave it and it won't, you know, won't look bad on your clock. So I had been punching those out, but I didn't like it to be white, you know, or a hole. So I used a little bit of these from Ranger again, liquid pearls. And I promise I'm not advertising for anybody. These are just the products that I'm using, so I'm not getting paid. But this is what I used. So it's liquid pearls. I just used a teeny, teeny, tiny dot of it. And those can take a while depending on how big your dot is to dry. So I kind of let it start getting dry. I did such a small one, and then I just kind of pressed it down with my finger so it didn't stick up too much. But it kind of finished that little thing off. So that's going in my center pocket. And then for the last two, again, I just kept them simple because she might want to do something on these, but these were just a couple of, this was the rest of that advertisement that I cut off of here. And then this is beginning inventory. So I thought those were just, you know, kind of good for him being a traveling salesman. And then my next pages, this I had not done. So I wanted to introduce some more music sheet here. Some text again for the writing. There's text in this one also, and some florals. So then I, you know, put that on the other side by doing my floral stencil. And then this one, I wanted it to have a little bit of color, not be just bright white. So I just used my vintage photo in the tattered rose just to kind of give it that blushy color. And then this was a scrap of paper I had. It's very, almost like fabric. Scrapbook paper, you know, where you can just buy those just 12 by 12 individual sheets. It was one that I had a bit of scrap left over, so it already had this kind of gold shimmer there. So I added a heart because I wanted to kind of repeat hearts. So this to me kind of had like a love letter, love song feel for the writing theme. So I've put just another card. I like to put music in a lot of things because I play the piano. And so a lot of times there's little secret parts of me, I guess, that I put into my journals that if people know me, they know that. But if they don't know me, it's just kind of a little hidden thing. My husband actually had told me, I always, in my jewelry making, I use a lot of watch faces and I set the hands to 828 because that's an important number repeated throughout my life kind of thing. And so he was one day saying, you know, you should always hide it somewhere in your work. He didn't know I already do that, but even if you don't see it, sometimes it might be in a background of a collage or something I've painted and kind of paint over, but it's always there. So anyway, that's kind of what the music thing is to me also. So I put some music paper, card, and then I'll show you how I make this little envelope because this is just a fun other little tool. And then it's just got some, anytime I've used my coffee stained paper, even the little scraps, then they're perfect for little envelopes, just another little place to write. So let me take a second and show you how I make this little envelope. Set this aside. So I'm using, this one is a Martha Stewart. I got it super duper cheap at Michael's on their clearance shelf a long time ago. There may be other brands, but this is the one that I use. I'm sure they're all pretty similar. So this is a scoreboard, and mine came with, let's see if I can get this open. I always have a hard time with this. There you go. So I keep my little tool in here. This one has dimensions, instructions to make standard size cards. So it'll have what they're called: number 1, 4-bar, A2, A6, A7, A9, 6-inch square, and number 10. It will tell you the paper size you start with, where you make your scores, and then it also does gatefold cards and boxes. So you can even make, with heavier stock, you can make little gift boxes. So I love that. And then here, they have a little slot, and I love that they even have which direction to put it in because I can never remember it. But same thing, it just fits in a little slider here on the bottom, and so it's all kind of self-contained. And they even show you this is the way it goes in. But this is the dimensions you need for the corresponding cards for the envelopes. So it goes here in the corner. I'm doing a number 1 size, which is the smallest size. So it's kind of like a thank you, a little maybe florist card or thank you card, little tiny card. So it says start with a 5.5 by 5.5 square. Now there's a little asterisk here because I'm putting in whatever I want. I'm just going to go with that size. The little asterisk says that if you're going to make envelopes for flat cards, then you decrease the length and width of the starting paper by 1/8 of an inch. I don't bother for this kind of a project, but if you're making the card and want the corresponding size, then you want to decrease that because your card is going to be a little small for your envelope if you don't, or it's going to look not proportioned. So you start, there's a and a B side. So you put one corner into the corner here so that you're at an angle. And then it tells me for my A score lines, 2 inches, and my B score lines, 2.5 inches. So I'm going to go to 2 inches, make a score mark, turn your paper corner into the corner. Now I already forgot what I did. That was 2.5. That was 2. Okay, turn it. Two and a half inches. Turn it back into the corner, 2 inches. Back into the corner, 2.5 inches. Okay, so that's your scores. I'm just going to set this aside. Now, what I like to do, because it's kind of hard to see the marks on white paper, or like if you have a heavily patterned paper, then I like to take something. I'll use this color maybe. I'm probably going to distress this anyway, and it's not going to matter. Maybe this is the inside of my envelope. But if you kind of put some ink on these, you can see those a little bit better. So depending on, my eyes are getting old, so there you go. Okay, so scissors, where's the scissors? So then you're going to take, you can kind of see that line is kind of thick. You're going to cut it so that you're cutting the maximum amount out of the envelope. If you don't do that, your folds will kind of not be crisp and tight. So I take the maximum amount. So that little line from my score mark is on the piece that's going away. So I will speed this up and cut these out. Okay, and then make my folds. And then what I like to do is I want to cut these points off. I don't need that there. You could fold it in, but even for this one, some of the larger envelopes where this point hits is not so low, so it's okay to leave it. But I like to either round it or cut it off flat anyway. On my previous one, I cut it off flat. I'm going to cut this one off flat. You can either eyeball it or draw a nice straight line, but I'm just going to do that. And then again, you could either cut this flat or you could even use your hole punch, and I will take maybe the big one. And I just think that looks more like a real envelope to have that rounded. So then you just want to glue this down. You can either use glue stick, or I like to use double stick tape. And really you only have to use it here. I like to use double stick tape partly because I'm going to want to pull it out anyway. If I were to be making cards that I'm going to sell, for example, there's no adhesive here. So I would put my double stick tape as a closure and just leave the backing side on, for whoever's going to use it. So that's kind of why I like to use double stick tape. Also, you're not introducing any kind of moisture to your envelope, so you don't have the chance of making it kind of, wavy paper or anything. So that is a cute little envelope. Now you see my inking. If Sometimes when I make these, I made them with lined paper, liner. Here's an example, a liner paper. So it would cover that inking that I had done on there. Or just don't ink it. You might not need it. But see, this is how I would, if I were selling this, it's attached here. But now I have the tape is there if somebody wants to do this and mail it. So that's just kind of how I do it. Or you can just use this, you know, and go ahead and ink up the whole thing. And then, you know, you don't have to worry about it. So another little envelope. And then, let's see. So this one I had made with some coffee stained manila paper that I used. So you can see it's kind of grungy. And then just that little piece of paper. And again, I made my little, you know, corner mistake. So I could put a whole label over this whole thing, but I don't know. I don't know that I'm going to go embellish this anymore before she gets it. I'm going to send her pictures, and if she wants me to do more, I can. But I'm just thinking, you know, she might want to add her own things. So another little, I'm happiest when I'm with you. And then this is the Romeo and Juliet paper that I had used previously. I'm trying to, you know, repeat things throughout just to keep it cohesive. And now this one, I'm really sorry I don't have the name of this, but this is a die. It's for a little card, and I don't remember where I got it. I got it for my jewelry to use as thank you cards. I always send a little thank you card in my jewelry. So this is what the die looks like, and it actually has the little stitching. And then it also came with some other little thank you in script that you could die cut out and add, and some little arrows, like for little Valentine kind of thing, Cupid arrow kind of stuff. So it has some other little parts and pieces with it, but I just thought it would be cute for this one, just as a little, another little envelope. And then I just stamped love you on the front. And this one, it's again, I did it on coffee stained paper, so it's real thin, but you know, I used some vintage photo just to kind of dirty it up even more. But on the heart, I used the tattered rose, so it kind of just gave it that other little color. So that's that. And then for these, now I'm to my heart. So for this, I have two pockets that are just these slot, just from the 2 book pages being stuck together. I decided I didn't want to put any kind of liner paper here because my heart's right here, and I just thought I liked seeing just book page for this whole section. So I just did another little simple card. This may be where these pockets, I think there's one in the front maybe, or I know there's one in the back, might be a good place to put some little extra embellishments for her, stickers and things, so she can add to her book. So I kept this one really simple. Again, this is that 49 Market paper, and then I just added some washi tape. Both of these washi tapes, I'm not sure where I got them. I'm going to put a link to Washi Tape Shop, though, because other than buying them at like Michael's or something, that's where I've purchased my different washi tapes. So I'll put a link to that. I just pulled out all the ones that were either script or music, that kind of thing, to use in my book. I didn't want to put a little tab on here. I'll show you why on the other side I did. And then when I had my book sitting like this, I didn't really like to see a big pull thing right here next to my heart. Had I put it up here, that would have been okay, but I didn't like to take away from my heart. So now I'm to the heart, and I guess since I'm here, I will show you quickly how you do this. I can't share this pattern like I've said because it's something I purchased on Etsy. But I will put a link to the instructions. It's only like, I think it was under $2 for this one. This is a beginner one. It's only 67 folds. Book Folding Forever on Etsy. I'll put the link. She has it there still. So what you do is when you get it, you'll print out this thing. She has a little tutorial, you know, that's really explanatory about how to do it. But it's so simple. So you have the fold, the number of fold. There's 67 of them. You have Mark 1 and Mark 2. So what you want to do is, it's in centimeters because she's from the UK, and you want to have a pencil so that you can tick off as you go so that you don't get lost where you are. You could put all the marks and then fold after. You might want to do that for your first one just because if you make a mistake along the way, you haven't folded your pages in case you get off somewhere. But But if I did this one where each one I marked and then folded because I was just anxious to have it, to see it finished. So by the time I got to the end, it would be done. So I've done a few of these. So, you know, you're going to go and take a centimeter ruler and turn your book this way. Once you know where you're going to start, I'll just do it as if this first page. So this is open. And on my instructions, my first mark is at 8.4 and my second one is at 9.2. So I'm just going to take my ruler, and my ruler has a line where the 0 is, so it's not to the edge. So just line up that first line anywhere along that top. And with a pencil, I was at 8.4 and 9.2. Oh, I'm out on the centimeter side. You do want to be on the centimeter side. So I already have my mark, so I'm just going to put it here. So I found 8 and then counted over 4 and then 9 and counted over 2. So you just make little tick marks, and then you're going to fold to line up your edge with that little tick mark. And book page makes it so easy because to get them straight, not that it would really matter, I guess, but you want them, you know, perpendicular. So you just look at the words and you kind of make sure you get it lined up, right? So you just make a tick mark, go to the next one. So, you know, each one is different. And when you're finished, you end up with your heart. Now, the one thing, if you watched my first video of this, I had torn out a couple of pages because the picture on the page went all the way to the edge. So I had ripped those pages out knowing that I didn't want to see that dark in my heart. What I didn't think of was, let me find one. Some of these had pictures that didn't go all the way to the edge, so I didn't worry about it too much. Well, what I didn't realize was if I'm folding it this direction, I'm going to see that dark in there, and I don't want to see that either. If it's a picture book, it actually looks kind of neat because it's all colored. So like say you take a book that's all pictures, like a magazine, or like a flower book, or something that's, you know, every picture's a photo. That kind of looks neat folded into something. But, if it's only one here or there, it doesn't look good. So what I did just to solve it, because I only had that many pages left, I couldn't tear any out. When I got to one that was going to show a color, let me see if I can find one here. See, they're all folding the same direction until I got to here. I was going to have that problem. So normally I would have been folding it in this way, and I had a little bit that I didn't want to see. So I just folded that one the other direction. And I only had that happen a few times. And in the end, you don't notice it at all. Excuse me. You don't notice it at all. So that was my heart. You can see that it's kind of a little bit different color on the front of the heart. And that's because I decided I wanted to kind of continue my color theme. So I just took my the tattered rose and I just went along the edges. So you can do them all as a group like this and get as much ink on as you want, or you can take each page and, make sure you do each one. So that's how I kind of got it, that color. It's subtle, but I kind of like it. I have a couple of other books. I've done this one this is Peacock Feathers. And in this book, this was not the first one I did. I thought, I wonder what it'd be like if I glued down each one of these pages. I did that, and then I probably had this closed, had books sitting on it to kind of flatten it. So it kind of has made my heart a skinny heart, which is fine, but I kind of like them fluffier. This was the very first one I did, and I did not glue it down. So I kind of like that. This one I used a metallic gold marker and did gold on it, just because I had kind of some shimmer going on my cover. And you know how book pages, a lot of times old books, they'll be gold foiled, on the edge. So that's kind of what made me think to do that. Now this one, I did another experiment too, and I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to ask her, since she's going to get this book. if she wants me to be able to write on all these pages. I mean, you can write on them now, you know, right around the edges or right over the whole thing with a bolder pen. So you have these other 67, you know, times 2 front and back pages that you could be writing in for your journaling. So I'm going to give her the option if she wants me to do anything to these or not. But I did an experiment that I will share. So I took some gesso and just did a coat of thin gesso. I just used this Liquitex gesso. This one's the professional one, so it is a little thicker than the cheap version, because Liquitex does have a cheaper one. I would say this professional one coat is maybe like 2 coats of the cheaper one. So it's kind of how heavy you put it on too. But then I did an experiment, and I don't know where my page is that I did, of which pen, you know, maybe writes the best on these. So I took a variety of pens. And my favorite, which is really funny because it's what I use to write my thank you cards for my jewelry sales, is just a Sharpie, a regular old Sharpie fine point marker. And that's what I wrote on this one. And I'll show you on this one how easy and smooth it is. You know, it's just, it writes really well. Some of the other ones I did try, Sharpie has a pen now. And I did try that one, and it was probably my second best, but it has more of a tip that's like the Unipen and Pitt pens, that kind of pen. So I tried that too. This one is an 05, I think. And it's okay, but some of these I found some of these better pens, when you write on the gesso, the gesso kind of comes off on the pen and it doesn't make it work as well. This one is the red. It's a Pitt pen. It didn't do as good. I don't have it in black to see, but this was, it did okay, you know. I would say I did it just with a ballpoint tool, ballpoint, medium ballpoint. That worked okay. I mean, all these were okay. But I had found that I kind of ruin these pens, you know, for using on other things, and they don't last as long if I'm trying to write on something painted. So I think my good old standby worked the best. So I may even send her a Sharpie to use, just so she knows this is the pen you might want to write on this. So anyway, I'm going to give her the option if she wants me to gesso that heart. So we are to the second half now. And this is another card just from that same leftover part that I did on the other side. And this one, I had put a piece of lace as a tab. And then this is me experimenting. This is probably why I don't craft on camera a lot, is I'm just learning, you know, I'm finding out what works and what doesn't work. So I had actually slot punched this and then tied some lace on it. And I didn't like that. It was just way too much. So then I thought, well, it's too bulky. So I needed to make it flat. So then I just did a little lace tab and I glued it down, but I wanted to cover up my slot. So I used one of my clock faces on one side and one of the little butterflies I had fussy cut out of this piece of paper on the other side. And then I put it in there and I still didn't like it because once I had my heart folded, I had this little thing sticking out and I didn't like it. So I just cut the lace off and left it flat. So it's fine. It has a little pull, you know, it has a little notch. You can see that there's something in there. But that's, you know, it's kind of, making mistakes is kind of good in a way, I guess, because it helps you figure out how to fix them in a way that's still decorative and you didn't ruin your project. So this side, again, I just used, this is a script paper that I have done my stencil on, and I stitched on with a sewing machine just on this edge before I put it in, just to give it some detail. This was one of my painted papers that I then added the floral stencil again, stitched down the side, same thing. This was from actually the same piece of paper. I just cut it apart. You know, it's another place to write. These two little edges here are from the Country Road paper packs and florals and that kind of thing. So I just used a strip of that here. And then this was, again, one of the butterflies that was in this paper. I just circle punched it out, made a button, and did my distressing in darker colors to make it stand out more. And then used another part of that paper just for another little card. Own Your Dreams, another sentiment from the sentiment stamp. Another, just, I kind of just folded this. There's a little journaling piece of coffee stain paper. Again, just kind of trying to repeat colors. And then this was another piece of my hand painted paper, and the color kind of went with this, so I thought I'd put that over here. So this, because it was a book page, it was pretty thin. So I just took another piece of my paper that kind of coordinated and just glued them together to make it a little thicker. And then just took a bunch of the scraps that were left over from the different papers that I'm using through here for journaling paper. And I just kind of junk journaled them all together here and then just ran it through my sewing machine. I could have stitched this, you know, done some kind of, you know, fancy stitching or whatever. But I was just, you know, trying to make a down and dirty kind of easy little journaling book. And then because it's a book, I thought it'd be funny. This was limited edition, was one of the stamps in the sentiment. So I just did it on a scrap, sewed around the scrap, you know, dirtied it up and stuck it on there. So that's there. And then I don't think I have any top pockets. Then this one, I had used, you know, some more blue and more color in this one. So I kind of wanted to bring the blue in again. And this ended up becoming, get all this out of here. One of my double corner pockets. And then I added, this is from the Ledgers and Maps, I think just a piece of thin paper added to cardstock so it would be a little thicker. I didn't put gussets in this side like I had, which I showed in the other video. Some of these I put little gussets in so that there would be more room for putting cards and things in. And I believe I showed that in the last video. If I didn't, I'll show it in a future one. But anyway, so that's just a little pocket. I didn't worry about the gusset, like I said, because I knew I was going to put more in here. So I've put in the back one, again, I just stuck some of that thin, already lined paper onto some cardstock. For this, because I just wanted to give it a little bit more detail. It's really subtle, but I used those floral stencils just with the same antique parchment paint that I've used throughout. And then I just used some of my vintage photo over it just to make it stand out a little bit more. And then just some little sentiments. So that's here. These are two of my hand-painted papers. This is a hand-painted paper, and the one on the other side is too. And just a little bit of repeating the music paper here. So there's those. And then these were a couple of more of there was like a whole sheet of just different postcards. So they're smaller. They're scaled down because they were on that 8x8 paper pack. Then I've just attached them to some cardstock, so for some more journaling cards. So we'll put those in. Maybe I'll do it this way so that you see that it's a postcard. And then just made a couple little tags. These I did with a tag punch. Some of you may have die cutters or, you know, dies that are different size tags. So that one, and then just, I have a little package somewhere. Let's put it away, I think. Oh no, I think it was on Etsy. I bought just a whole bunch of international stamps. So I just kind of grab them from time to time by color. So I just picked a couple and then did some, this is from these little rubber stamps. I've had these are from Cavallini paper. I've had these forever. So I just grabbed a couple of the little mail-related ones and stamped on the tag. This one, if you notice this color in the background's a little bit different. I had stamped quite a bit on it to start, and then I didn't like how dark it was. So I was kind of trying to go for this kind of color, has a little more gray in it. So I had used the archival ink, the ground espresso, and I just went over it with a little thin layer of gesso, and that kind of toned it down. So anytime you do something like that, you know, which might be perceived as a mistake, you know, take some gesso. It's a really kind of a cure-all. And just a thin layer will tone down and kind of send backwards whatever artwork you've done. And then it'll make your focal point stand out a little bit more again. So if I didn't want this stamp to be my focal point, say I wanted to make this little circle with something else that I'm going to attach, I could do the same thing and go with a little gesso around there just to soften that. In my case, I wanted it to stand out and be my focal point. So I used from this pack, again, the labels, there are a couple that look like little stamps. So I just took one of those and did it with book page. And then one of my new favorite things are these Stabilo Aquarellable. Well, I'll call them Stabilo All Pencil. I'll put a link to these. These are great. So if you wanted to make something stand out a little bit more, these all pencils will write on something you've painted on, glued on, glass, metal, whatever. You can write on it with this pencil. So it's kind of like using a charcoal pencil or shading pencil, but then you use your water pen and it will blend all of that in. So when you write on, I'll show you just on a piece of paper, I think. So if you write, we'll use this. Say I wanted to highlight this butterfly. I'm doing it kind of messy and dark just so you can see. So I've just made a line. If this were something I had glued down, it's really hard to get that point where you want it on the edge. You know, it'll kind of maybe be on the edge of the raised part of the butterfly, and then there'll be like a gap because you can't get in there tight, and then there'll be maybe a line on your cardstock. It's really hard to get in and shade on those things, but this pencil is great because it's water soluble. So you'll do that, and then you could just use that and spread it around, and it's kind of like watercolor. Now, I'm doing it a lot more than I would do on my regular thing, but I'm doing it so you can see it. So you would just go around the edge of something. You can see how much is there. So I could have done just a tiniest little line and not even go around the whole thing because my water's going to carry that around more. So see, it just, now I can take it over here. Isn't that great? I just love that. So whenever you want something to stand out a little bit more, there's not enough contrast in your little focal point, just go around. All I did was kind of go around on this little scalloped edge. You can kind of see it. And then use my water pen to kind of just blend it all in. So that's just a nice trick that I learned from Sean Petit doing her mixed media art. So that's that side, lots of places to write. And then this side was just, I hadn't put a pocket here, and I used one of my hand-painted papers for my jelly plate that kind of coordinated, and I just liked it with the rusty paper clip. So I just put a couple of pieces of paper. This is a collage that I haven't made available, but I will at some point. I've been playing around with doing digital collage and things. So I've done music paper ones and just some ephemeral ones. So at some point I hope to get kind of a packet together and have it in my Etsy shop. So this was just a piece of that I had done and torn there because you can still write on it and write on the back. Okay, and the next one, this one I didn't even, on these, I did not even round the corners or age them or anything. I may still do that, but I don't even really feel like I need to in this one. So it started out with double pockets here. This is just the back side of that paper clip I attached. This is this from the Country Road pack. This floral butterfly that I've used elsewhere. This is this paper. You know, I'm trying to sprinkle things and use them at least one other place in my book. And then the script, I think this was from that Maps and Ledgers one. And then just kind of kept it really simple. Just aged stuff. Did my stencil here and here. And just did a torn edge with some of the book page showing. So kept it really simple, but, you know, it's just another place to write things. So this is just from, again, a piece of paper. This is what it looks like if I don't age it at all. I don't mind it, but I think the aging it will make it look a little bit better. So I'm going to put this here just to kind of bring that color out a little bit. And then this was just another 6x6 pieces from Tim Holtz that you can get. And I just cut it in half. But the colors worked for both things. So I am just doing that. I think that looks good. Then as I was doing this, you know, I kind of was jumping around and making sure felt like I had plenty of places to write, but I had done a couple of these pages that I didn't have pockets on. This was another one. So I took a piece of just 12 by 12 scrapbook paper, and I didn't make that open. And this piece is from that Recollections pad. And it has some neat things in it that already have some sentiments. There's sentiments in there that you can cut out just like whole sheets of them. So this one was just already printed in the corner of this 12 by 12 sheet. So I just cut it so that I'd have that corner. And then this was along the top. So one thing you can do to add pages into your book, if you've torn them out like I have, but I left a couple of blank pages, there's really then no place to go. You know, how do you add another paper in? So what I do is I leave like a 3/4 or an inch little lip that I can glue down first, and then glue down a backing paper to cover my text. And then this is just kind of a little flap. So you can do that, and you can do a bunch of them, which I did later on in the book. Then this side was just a top load. So I could have added a pocket to this, but I hadn't done it with the book page when I was tearing out pages. So anything I needed to add was going to be me adding paper anyway. So I figured, why not add some more writing paper? So I did the same thing. It's going to have a top load pocket. So I just took, this is the actual width of my paper. It was like from a composition book or something. I liked having the tattered edge. So I just kind of started on a clean edge, folded it over where it needed to fold, so that I have all that writing space. And then I had to cut off a little piece from the top to make it the right height. And this was just that piece. So I just left a little bit behind it, right? So it's just kind of another little extra place to write. And let's see, where did this clip go? Oh, I had it to clip both of these. So I've done the same thing. I've used this clip because I'm kind of holding those floppy things together here. But I'm going to take it off again because I want to show you the other side. So for this one, this was so simple and clean, and I kind of want to just leave it that way. So I found a card from that 49 market again, because their backgrounds are so subtle and clean. I thought, I'm going to do that on this page, on this side. And then there was a stamp on that stamp said there was a beauty and simplicity, and I just like that. So that's that side. But then I wanted the other side. I just made a little tab with the clock face, and then I punched out with a scallop punch that just to have a pull tab. But the other side, I wanted it to look good with this spread. So I kind of did a thing there too. So kind of same color palette. Did another clock face that kind of pulled in that a little better. This is just a piece of scrap coffee stain paper in here. So they're all kind of coordinated. But you can write on all of it. So that was a good thing. And then this again was another side. So this was just 2 book pages glued together to make this top pocket. So I didn't have front pockets or side pockets on this one either. So I decided same thing. I was just going to go and make kind of an accordion of writing paper. So I've just used a text paper here. This paper is again from that travel one, I think, the Recollections pack. So it has text on it, but it's so subtle, you could still use that as writing paper. So I just kind of folded it accordion here also. And then this side, I'm going to have a floppy thing here again. So I've put this to kind of keep it together. Corner pocket with just another piece of that same paper. I've added a sentiment to it. So another little envelope, make a wish. There's another little scrap piece of lined paper in there. And then another one of those little postcards. And then on this side, I kind of wanted to do the stacked envelope kind of journal thing. I've done those in the past, but it was going to bulk it up too much because I knew I would end up wanting to line the envelopes and put things inside and all that. It was just going to get too thick. So I decided just to take that kind of a fold idea and do the same sort of idea. This is, oh, I'm going to tear it. This had a little glue in the corner that made it get stuck. There, saved the day. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of have that open thing, and then I just did another piece of that to kind of cover all of my little lips. So if you've watched the envelope stacked journal videos that I've done, I know other people have done them too. You know that it just kind of, they go like this. So usually it's your envelope flap that is behind this paper stacked. So in this case, they're not envelopes, so I just have left like an inch that's behind there. So you just kind of lay out the order that you want those to go in, glue all of your little flaps down, and then finish it off with a solid piece of paper. So all this is writing space too. So I just kind of have them staggered onto each other again. And then I wanted to decorate. It was pretty flat looking, just lined paper. So I took this as my cover, like a book cover, and took the paper that I used here and just tore a little flower out. And then this behind here is some doily. So I just tore out some pieces of, where did my doily go? Just tore out some of these scallops from the doily, and then distressed them with some spray vintage photo, and then the mica. You can see the shine, the mica sprays, just to kind of dirty it up and kind of give it something other than just these plain papers. Same with the pocket, did the same thing on this one. And then music paper behind here again. This paper is, I'm not sure which paper pack again, but it's the thin, just regular thin paper, and it was like Little Women book. Used one of my clock faces, and then this hand on the clock. So I didn't have two hands to do my 828, but so I just did the 28. Piece of washi tape back here, and one of the little stamps. This watch face, this watch hand, sorry, is from an actual watch hand that I photocopied. I'll be adding that into my little ephemera kit when I get it together. But I had previously taken this, because I make jewelry, and used resin to make it hard. So it actually seemed like I fussy cut it out, and the whole, so it really felt like an actual watch hand, but it's not. So when I do these as part of ephemera, you can go over it with glossy Mod Podge. If you do resin stuff, you can make resin paper out of it, which is what I did. Or you can emboss it, and you'd get that same effect. So it just kind of makes it look like a real watch hand. And then again, I just did the whole thing onto a piece of cardstock. So that is that one here. And I just did the one card there. I could add more. Like I said, I want to give her a preview of what I have, so that she can say, you know, stop or keep going. And then this is the last. So I just, again, from the maps and ledgers and things, this was one piece of paper. I just cut it in half and you know, put it together here. I liked the top said for writing messages, so I wanted that to show. And then there was a postcard here. I wanted that to show, so I've kind of staggered my papers and put a piece of washi tape, which is this one here. Just to bring in that turquoise color again. And then again, these are my two postcard backs that I have that will be available. And I printed them right onto the cardstock. So they're just a little thinner, but then you can write on both sides. So you can, you know, collage on the other side if you want. If she wants to do that, you know, she may decide, she does journaling, but maybe she doesn't actually make journals, but maybe she wants to, you know, play around with, doing little art stuff on the back. And then this again was from the sheets that had just a little different notepads and things on it. So I turned that into a little card. So I've kept them really simple. And then this one, hold on one second. I had to take a sip of water. So for this one, again, is a 12 by 12 piece of matte paper that I just cut to fit here. I didn't want to waste, I don't know what I did with it. I didn't want to waste that, the piece by gluing it down. So I think it's laying around here somewhere for me to make a card out of it that I will probably make and put in, or actually I may have used it. No, I didn't, but I'm going to. I need to make a card with that little scrap. So I cut out the center here so that I wouldn't waste that part of the map. And then did my, 1-inch lips, and just, I left this free so that you can write here, you can write here. Just folded these over, just kind of like a little gatefold sort of booklet thing. And I didn't do too much. This butterfly was already printed just in the ink in that color on the paper, and it was too one-dimensional. And so I've done just outlined it in the embossing with the embossing pen, just to kind of give it a little decoration but keep it flat. And in the very last pocket, I just have a piece of coffee stained manila paper. I think I'll add a card made out of that map, would be nice there. And then, like I said, maybe some little stickers and things for her to add in, maybe some extra postcards, I don't know, something like that. So that is my book. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I know this went really long, but I wanted to show things for the people that are new. Again, that's why I do this. I have had some snarky comments from people who don't like all the talking. They don't like that I don't get right to it. Maybe I explain too much. That's fine. That's why they do fast forward. And there are other channels that don't do that at all. So I hope that you learned something and enjoyed this. If you did, give me a thumbs up and say hello in the comments. Have a great rest of your day. Now go make something. Bye.